Welcome, fellow synthesizer sickos. I'm Vulture Culture, and tonight we're checking out the Ensoniq TS-10. Easily the coolest synth from the 90s, in my opinion, because it essentially opens up what Korg started with the Wavestation. This bad boy came out in 1993, I believe, and made it programmable. So if you've ever tried to program a Wavestation, haha, just kidding. I know not a single person who's ever watched YouTube has ever tried to program one, aside from John Skippy Lemcool, who was on the original team, because they're just almost impossible to program. And Ensoniq actually has really great, simple to use interfaces. Now, they're not like one knob per function interfaces like you might get on something like the JD800 behind me, but in terms of the complexity using hyperwaves and everything that we're hearing in this patch, you can't compare it. So tonight's live stream, we're going to be going basically through as many patches as I can so you can hear how the synthesizer sounds. And I have to say, I'm so excited to be checking out these new patches because on the previous live stream we did, we just checked out the factory content, which is fine, but almost a little boring. I'm surprised that they use so many kind of vanilla sounds because the synth is so powerful, as you can hear. And what I recently did is swapped out the floppy drive for a USB emulator, and we're going to load some patches off of that, and the difference is night and day. So why don't we just start with the first patch here. You know that very famous sound. We can turn the volume down just a bit. Sounds like it might be a bit much. So you can hear those hyperwaves in there. Now, one thing about hyperwaves, which again are like Korg's Wavesequencing, but I don't think you can go quite as complicated as you can on a Wavestation. I want to say a wave sequence on a Wavestation can have like 255 different waves and like sequenced out on it. Here, I think we're limited to a much more reasonable like 16 or something like that. But still, for all intents and purposes, you can still make these incredible... I mean, just these beautiful sounds. And for me, it's so exciting because I've said before on this live stream that the Wavestation has the best presets of all time. I think that synth sounds incredible. And finding these patches is almost for me like finding a whole new Wavestation. And what's ironic is if you check out other patches for the Wavestation, they're not that good. I've found very few good patches aside from the factory content that sound great for the Wavestation because they rely on the wave sequences that are programmed in already, essentially. And it's hard to sort of do better than those. Whereas here, loading in a bunch of the new content, it's pretty obvious that you can get some really incredible sounds. This one's called King's Late. I don't know how well you can see this on the stream. And yes, Sarah, it was after the Wavestation, which came out in 90 or 91, and this would have been around 93. So they were able to sort of bootleg. Yeah, so just incredible sounds, and it's just freaking awesome. And yes, absolutely, the Wavestation has more steps. And another major advantage over the Fismo, for instance, which is often touted as the greatest Ensoniq synth or the most hated Ensoniq synth, depending on who you are, this is a fully polyphonic Aftertouch keybed. So even if, fucking forget about everything else, you just want to talk about what's a great polyphonic Aftertouch keybed, well, here we are. And I do have an Ensoniq SQ80 behind me. You can see it right there. And that's also polyphonic Aftertouch. It has the advantage of having analog filters, which is super cool. But comparing the keybeds, they're night and day. The TS-10's keybed's much better. I still think it's a little clacky for a keybed for like a vintage synth. But one advantage is that when you hold down the key, you have like way more throw. You can see that key flexing there. And I can even kind of feel like when I'm going into the Aftertouch range, which is super useful. It feels really awesome to just be able to play the keys and then apply polyphonic Aftertouch. So definitely a very cool sound. Here we go. We're just going to keep playing. So if you love these like organic, breathy, sort of, maybe organic's not the right word, more like almost industrial, like beautiful industrial sorts of sounds instead of like dark, heavy industrial, just incredible. I mean, it's so good. It's so beautiful and cool. Mighty Pinto and Vulture Mom, welcome. Yeah, just these sounds are so cool. And the thing about the TS-10 is it's super underutilized. I know it was used, I want to say it was used for some of the Donkey Kong stuff with David Wise, and I think Robin Beanland used it too, some other places like Killer Instinct and stuff. In particular, I want to say it's the guitar sounds that were used off of this for some of the DK stuff. But the real point I'm trying to make here, before I derailed myself, was that these sounds, unlike the Wavestation, haven't been used to death. You know, if you use Ski Jam in a song right now, it's like, dude, we've heard it before. But all of these are super cool. Oh, yes, and Todd brings up another really good point. So the DP4, very famous effects processor used all over the place, probably more famous than the synth. If you buy one of these synths, you essentially have it built into it, which is super great. Tomorrow. That's a good question, Sari. Can anybody think of another polyphonic Aftertouch manufacturer in the 90s? I don't think I can. So these are patches from that I found on this disc. Now, I think that they were essentially like Ensoniq released, but not the factory content. Does that make sense? Like additional stuff. Always fun to see. I mean, I'm such a slut for any sort of like breathy, grainy sort of a thing. It's why I love synths like the Quiet K1 and K4, for instance. Korg Wavestation's another really great one. Motion Jam. So another thing that stands out to me about these patches is Ensoniq makes incredible patches. I mean, the same is true for the SQ80. All of their supplemental content just sounded so freaking good. VFX, incredible patches. And my conspiracy theory would be that Ensoniq kind of deliberately made the factory patches on the TS-10 kind of weak. They're very bread and butter. There's like a lot of piano sounds and so forth. And most of them don't use Polyphonic Aftertouch. Dubstation Zero's theory about that was that way it'd be compatible with both the TS-10 and the TS-12. So TS-12, real quick, is exactly what Todd Phipps is saying is channel Aftertouch, also known as mono Aftertouch, aka the Aftertouch most keyboards have, which is as you press down, you can control some sort of variable or multiple variables or whatever. But it's not per key. It's just so if I press a key that's up high, it affects the low notes and vice versa. TS-10 has fewer keys instead of 76 keys like the TS-12, and those keys are piano weighted keys, so it's going to feel more like a real piano, which is cool. Maybe again that's why there's so many piano sounds in the TS-12 is because and the TS-10 is it's the same factory library and they wanted it to really sound good. But for me, I'm not convinced that I would ever recommend for someone to buy this particular synth because you want a great piano sound. Not nowadays. I mean, I think there's just other stuff out there that really sounds good. Georgie, welcome to the stream. Yes, the SD1 is sort of the comparable synth because the SD1 has more trans waves in it, I want to say, but it has less of some of the other stuff. So they're both kind of, there isn't 100% a definitive yes to that the TS-10 is better than the SD1, but you know, yeah. VFXs go for crazy cheap nowadays. Swish pad, it's got that like Proteus-y. What I was going to say before I again derailed myself, Death by Media, welcome to the stream. How's it going, my friend? Is that the patches might at first glance seem to be a little underwhelming if we were to shoot this out versus a Wavestation, for instance. Wavestation patches are just bar and away the best ever. However, the Wavestation, if you've ever tried to compose something with a Wavestation, you might have run into a problem, which is if you don't start whatever you're composing with the Wavestation sound, you're not going to fit it in because those presets are so attention grabbing that you're never going to really pull up a Wavestation and be like, oh, okay, I've got like a bass line going and the drums, whatever, let's play a pad. Because when you go to play a pad, it's going to do some crazy shit. It's going to do it in a different time signature, because it's, you know, you could go in and adjust the tempo, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like, they're just these really, like, there's a lot of patches where it's, you press one note and it plays a song for you, essentially. The TS-10, to me, has the sonic character of the Wavestation. It's a little of a different thing. I'm pretty sure if we shot them out back to back, we'd be able to be like, ooh, if I had to guess, the TS-10 might be slightly darker. It has like a little bit more depth to it, but also on the negative side, maybe a little less presence than the Wavestation. I mean, I think the Wavestation is pretty much like mix ready, don't need EQ or anything. With this, I could see perhaps a little bit, but Aquatic asks, how rare is this synth? It is pretty rare. I don't think they sold many of them. It came out too late in a way. Roland had trouble competing with the Wavestation with their JD800, so that's a relatively rare synth compared to the Wavestation. And then this is coming from a time where Ensoniq was about to go bottom up. It was right before their Hail Mary, the Fizmo. So yeah, that would be what I would say. I think I saw, let's play another sound while I'm looking at the chat here. Bell sweep. See, like you can have a track going and then drop this in and just. Just freaking crazy. But I agree with Ambient Knots. Let me see. Georgie says, I haven't done a comparison. So I'd be curious to know. I would assume the filter is pretty similar. Even just going off of like the VFD and the way that the architecture is very built upon from the SQ80, but you could tell it's like kind of an SQ80 under the hood to a certain extent. So they went to 44.1 with the ASR10 and the Fizmo. That's interesting because that makes sense that it's at about 30K. That would have been my guess that it's a little darker. I think the Wavestation runs at a low internal rate too. However, it just has a very bright sort of a thing, maybe less compensated for, like the way that they would try to scoop out the frequencies, the aliasing frequencies that you could hear. On this synth, it feels very optimized in the sense of like those frequencies, you can't hear them at all. Wavestation's a little crunchier, right? Which I kind of like. D50's kind of like that too. So that is what it is. Can you hear like some aliasing in there? I'm not sure, but it's an interesting sound. Flutovox. Oh yeah, so perfect patch for doing that sort of bent vocal sound. Industry pad. You hear it's sort of a similar one. No resonant filter, so that might be a reason you want to go with like a JD800 or something. Earliest Wavestation didn't have a resonant filter. By the way, can I get a scum cheers in the motherfucking chat? If this is your first time here on this channel, welcome to this incredible synthesizer community that I'm so lucky to be a part of. We do a live stream every Wednesday night here, so please like and subscribe to keep the channel alive. Can I get some scum cheers in the chat? Thank you guys so much for making my life incredible and for going on the synthesizer journey with me. Cheers, guys. Minor waves is interesting. So really interesting use of those hyperwaves. So again, if you weren't convinced by what we're hearing so far, it's can do some really great stuff. Agent OOE, welcome. Love the Ensoniq keyboards too. Alien pad. We do need an Ensoniq emoji. I'll work on it. Yes, I believe it's an ARP via the Hyperwave. That would be my guess. I love those sorts of like clangy. Really cool use of the Poly Aftertouch. But this patch is using just regular Aftertouch, but you could easily go in and adjust that. Bellamy. Triple welcome. I hate romps. This is the most romplery sound I've ever heard, so sorry. Pretty good. Yeah, you can hear aliasing in there for sure. But yeah, very cool sound. SQ1, very cool. MR61 as well. Yeah, the low end is just huge on this guy. Oh, that's super cool. Robin Balswein. Tripwell, you know, there's some people who like Romplers and there's some people who don't. I myself love Romplers. I don't know why. I just do. But I understand not liking them because you're so locked into what was programmed. All pentatonic or you know, like fifth notes. And of course, the Wavestation had a lot of patches that did that type of trick as well. So you can hear they're taking pretty liberal borrowing from that synth. Oh yeah, this one's cool. Turn the volume down just slightly. Down, does it do a wave sequence? That is crazy. It's got a little wave sequence built in there. Kidding me. I mean, what a fucking sound. So yeah, just again, how incredible the sound out of this thing is. Definitely a little darker of a vibe. Lower fidelity sound than the Wavestation. Wavestation sounds incredibly clean for, I don't know what kind of magic Dave Smith used to be able to get it that optimized. Probably using the Prophet VS history to get it to sound so good. To me, a sound like that is fine, probably useful, but just not what this thing does. Ooh, this one's really... So I wonder if you play like a tritone. Let's try. Really interesting sort of sound. The chat making me miss the SQ1, ESQ1 and the SQ80. Again, very kind of Wavestation-y type thing. This one's Poly. Poly is a little, Polyphonic Aftertouch is, of course, a little stiff, but not bad. One thing I don't love about this synth is the volume jumps between the presets. It's not something that matters when you're recording, but just for these demos. Is called Saturn, and I mean, if we go to hardware synths because we want inspiration, this one patch could be really so foundational to a whole song. I know I just like said this is kind of like a little bit better because it is less complex than the Wavestation, but they're just eminently interesting, beautiful sounds. Proudly digital, nothing analog here. You're not going to hear anything that sounds analog, which I appreciate. There's almost no like virtual analog stuff. And there are some patches, I'm sure we'll get to some, and when we get there, you'll be able to hear this thing's not as good at virtual analog as other synths, even like the SQ80, perhaps because it has an analog filter, so bad example there, but there are other synths from this era that do virtual analog better. You know, there probably is one, Sari. That sounds right. I can't remember exactly. Metal voice. Agent. Yes, so Bob Yanes, one of the three guys at Ensoniq, made the SID chip, the grandfather of the ESQ1 Mirage. There would be no Zombie by Kerncraft 4000 or whatever the band's called, you know, that anthem, without that chip. The first patch C view that I played at the beginning here. You can hear it's like the sound designer went from one patch to the next, but this one's so cool with these like organic little sounds in here. You really get the seagull of it all off of that one. Restless. In my restless dreams, I see that town. Guess it's kind of a tom drum marimba-y thing. Flange groove. I don't understand. I've heard a few of these other ones, and I'm like, the drums just sound really big. I think we heard that patch already. This one I heard earlier, just bad fucking ass. But the thing over the top is fine. Here's another one. This is definitely the biggest ripoff of the Wavestation so far, which is saying something. The Snake It Jam. Definitely something nearby, a patch you might have heard before. Oh yeah, so here's one, a really good... Okay, so this patch is super important to dissect a little bit. Sonically, I'm not going to go in and actually like pull up how it works and stuff. I'm not that good yet. I haven't done a Hydrasynth yet. I'd love to do a Hydrasynth. That would be phenomenal. Yeah, the sounds get buried in the effects. That's going to be the 90s in general. So first, I want you to listen to two things. First is like the detune between the oscillators and how that really lets down. And also just the filter character is going to have that like, it's just going to be more cold, brittle, industrial. It's going to have like a brutalist, concrete sort of expression to it, as opposed to a warm, organic, luscious, delicious analog filter. But then we're going to take it back because the effects are so good, because you got those DP4 effects in here. So the polyphonic aftertouch there. So yeah, the VA part of it definitely does not feel analog, and it kind of has its own sound. Tripwell, thank you very much for the $5. I appreciate it. It's people like you who make this stream possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It's really great. But if I just play, that's a good reverb sound. Actually, up there, it sounds very good. Very Oberheimy. Here, you hear that sort of re-triggering of the... But, having said that, you know, you've got some really smooth control over the filter here. get some really great stuff, and it's so expressive. It is sort of Hydrasynth-esque in that way. This is a really dark sequencer type thing. And again, we could do the MPE of the 90s for sure. Nylon pad. We've got like new octaves coming into the sound, and then also like just the kind of phaser. Maybe it's a DP4 phaser, I don't know. Just gorgeous sounding. Mellow waves. Yes, Ensoniq, that's absolutely my impression of this synth too, was that the low end on this guy is just so powerful. And I hate to say it, but I mean, it's a big part of what makes a synth sound good is its capacity for low end. And when I shot out, like, say, the SY99 versus the EX5, EX5 just didn't quite have the same low end. And I think most of us agreed the SY99 sounded better, even though technically the EX5 should have been more advanced. It just didn't quite have that sound. There's that nice cheesy brass sound you need. Really warm. Oh, we've got some guitar sounds now. These are pretty ripping. You know, it is what it is. I don't know. Oh, this one's just like a chord. Vintage guitar. Love a Stratocaster sound. I've heard a better Stratocaster in the M1. This was kind of cool for doing arpeggio type stuff. Fat bass. So again, interesting reverse reverb. You know, it's not going to be for me. I think that's not where this synth shines. God damn it. World in My Eyes bass set. I don't remember if that was another one of those Roland 700M type sounds. I imagine this would have some sort of sample and hold in it, but I don't remember off the top of my head. The low end is just crazy. As a guitar player, how do I feel about Rompler guitar patches? I think they can be cool. My favorites are where they do something kind of unique that you couldn't just play on a guitar, because for me, if I am just trying to emulate a guitar, it's not so great. So an example of that would be the wailing guitar preset from the JD800 behind me that was used for Voodoo People by The Prodigy is one of the greatest synth patches of all time, and it's a guitar patch, but it's very different. And then another example, also created by Eric Persing, would be some of the guitar sounds in Omnisphere. For instance, a harmonic at every pitch, so you're just playing harmonics. That's super cool because it's not possible with a real guitar. You only have 1, 2, 3 harmonic string maybe. So to be able to do a harmonic based patch is super great because it's a different sound. It's like organic still, but it's different. So that's what I would say. Clavinet. It actually sounds kind of authentic, surprisingly. Analog clav. Pianette. Listen to that wonderful stereo pan. Synthetic. This keyboard is still beyond me. But what I will say is programming my SQ80 is really not bad. It's a very well thought out interface that doesn't feel menu divey for what it is, considering they use a data entry slider. Also, just the fact that the data entry slider is so good. I actually think, oh, you were saying it's so simple, never felt menu divey. Yes, so that I agree with you. I think it is much more simple than people give it credit for. The low end. It's kind of a better sound. Fuck that. I like the drawbar one. Top 400. Interesting little there. I love LaBouche Pinto, big fan. Hey Sebastian, how are you doing? So yeah, that's just one set of sounds. So I'm gonna go back over into my little disk over here. I'm gonna move on to the next bank. So I'm gonna go to storage and then disk load. And then I'm gonna go to the beginning here and we're gonna just load some sounds in. And I was surprised by how quick this happens. So it's kind of weird. You have to like pick so we got 120 programs, hit yes. It's loading. I can hear it clicking and then it's done. Then we move on and we've got another 128 presets. Let's load that. Okay, that's done. And then we have some sequences. Let's load those. And what it's doing is it's loading that into the user bank section. So now what I'm going to do is I'll go one more over and we'll do the same thing. So I'm going to go to storage disk load and see what it comes up with. And the idea here being, since we've already heard some of the patches, I want to overwrite what we have, which might be more than one at a time. So let's just see what happens here. So I'm just loading in the 4th and 5th banks here, basically the TS-10 4th and 5th banks. This also has the Mirage factory content on it. It's got the Mirage samples and ASR10 samples, which you can load in, which is super cool. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Let's try to see if I can get a good USB floppy drive. I don't think you can hear it. It's not very loud. Loading in some sequences and some songs. Yeah. Oh. More sequences and songs. Yeah, that's what's happening, Sari, is there's this high frequency roll off. A lot of times it's actually a notch filter. After I was doing some research on the topic, they just like carve out whatever offending frequency is in there. Okay, so now if we go back to sounds here, we go to bank 1, we've got like a whole new set of sounds. So let's see what we got. Like this atonal thing. Soling. Gender. I feel like we've gone into like the tribal area. Rhythmic. It's kind of be cool to sample, you know. Kind of creepy. So we're like in this. Wow, we're just like deep. These out of tune sounding things, very cool. Ting Shang. Cup Gong. Really beautiful stereo delay. So cool. Wait, is this release? Yeah, so the release does something too. Dekarmic, welcome. Yeah, so there's all sorts of stuff I might have like overshot by this bank's very ethnic sounding. Kind of gritty, low fidelity moon flute. Really low fidelity stuff. Incredible brightness. We have a didgeridoo. Sitar drone. Adapt, manipulate, welcome. Bayan drums. Love a saz. This was called Baglama saz. Use this is Divin says. Dervish. Love that they can kind of like go out of key depending on where they're in the keyboard range. It almost feels like a physical modeling pad, right? Little weedy up in that range, but down low it's pretty cool. Wow. Yes, this is like a good example of like a guitar sound. It's like so much reverb, dark reverb on it that it's not really a guitar sound anymore. Unfortunately, I think that these types of sounds don't stand up as well because there's just sample libraries and shit nowadays, and this isn't for me the territory I love. Enya-ish. All right, let's go ahead. These all seem to be about the same, so let's go back to the storage disk and let's just change over to the next bank and let's just load this in because I think we got enough ethnic stuff. Let's see what else is going on. I know there's like a club and a techno thing too, so we'll see how that goes. We'll see what's in here. Okay, let's load in some stuff. Loading synth leads, that sounds good. Got some programs. They load in pretty quick, 128 programs here. Let's see. Disk command complete. No files. 60 presets. So let's just keep going here. 120 presets. Yeah, they load in very fast. I guess at this point, floppy drives were pretty like old news, right? You know, CDs have been out for a while and all of that. So we got sequences. We haven't even checked out like the sequences and stuff because, you know, I don't know. If you want to like listen to some demo songs, there's other YouTube channels to do that shit. I don't really care. Okay, so let's go check out these sounds and see what we got. The Circus is the first one. No disco. So big. Ethereal. Just the low end is crazy on the synth sometimes. Probably a little too much occasionally. This clearly feels more like almost like the trance bank. Metal. It's definitely metal to me. Oh, cool. Like, yeah, this is Poly Aftertouch, so that's pretty great. Ugly synth. I'm excited. really crazy filter in there. We've got a patch called Expander. I'm very excited about that. Members of this channel might know why. Is this what they thought an expander sounded like? We've got Polymoog. It's kind of hoping it would sound like Vox Humana, right? Big Gary Newman fan, especially his newer stuff. Demonstrating the Poly Aftertouch there, Polywave. Actually very cool sort of a sound. Again, we're more in the virtual analog territory, which I don't think is where the synth is best. I think it's best in the hyperwave territory, but you know, some of these are useful. Mondo Saw. Really cool, almost gives me a little Welcome to the Machine sort of mini Moog lead through a phaser sort of a sound. We do have a patch called Cars right here, so hopefully that's what we're gonna get, you know. These patches are drowned a little bit in effects, and I think we can turn that off quickly over here, but I'd have to look again. Takes a bit. Program effects. I think we can just turn the mix down if we wanted, like real quick. There's a lot in here. Effects, so let's just bring that all the way down, and then effects 2 all the way down. So it's pretty quick to, if you want to just get in there and you know, fuck around with stuff. Okay, that was big lead. Let's see if we get Cars. Oh, that's a fucking joke. Not a terrible patch in its own right, though, but Resonator. Wow. OBMX bass, so that's the rack mount virtual analog Oberheim that's not an Oberheim because Tom had nothing to do with it. Kind of cool that you can play it that way. Wheelbase. Dave, how's it going, man? Actually, cool. Tech bass. we've got 242 bass here. I don't know if you guys could read that. So we're the target market for that patch for sure. Would be cool if you could aftertouch that. Of course, we could do that punch bass. So much reverb again. 242 bass. Actually, this is an awesome patch. I mean, it's not, again, if I was going for this type of sound, I'd probably go reach for one of the analog synths behind me, but in its own way, was expecting. I don't think I was like expecting it to be like a drum and bass type sound. It's okay, you know? This is a cool one for like a lead. In its own way. I just love that comment so much, Machine Storm. A little more like in my territory. It's a little hot over here, Sari. I'd say, you know, a little bit by the power supply, but not brutal for sure. Really wild reverb on this one. Wow. Berlin. Wow. Breath pad. You know, for me, this is also another really like the retro trance music, and honestly, some industrial in here sounds great. But I would never buy this synth for these sounds. It's just not necessary anymore, I don't think. I think you can get a lot of expressivity with channel aftertouch for sure. I think Poly Aftertouch is great. but I don't think it's everything. And one thing I've noticed is like when I'm recording or doing like a live looping situation, I often forget to use Aftertouch because I'm just so focused on like playing the right notes, you know, but I'm also terrible, so that might be part of it. And these that promise, these sounds that seem like they could give what I'm looking for, they're so bassy that I'm like, I don't know if I'd use one of these. That one's pretty. Black hole. That's good. That's no joke right there. Cosmos. Very nice. Hula hoop. We are the robots. Mangled. Me on a Tuesday night. This is a very cool industrial texture. Yeah, it's a giant... They want you to know it's a TS-10, for sure. Moonbeam. Really cool. Yeah, so there was some resonance on that filter. That seems to be using that Genesis pad that we used last time. Okay. So where were we? We're on like 4 or 5. Let's try. I think that was 3. Let's try 2. Let's see what I get off of 2. So we'll go to storage disk load. And we've got yes. We've got, what else do we have? Whoa, exit. Whoa, storage disk load. Oh, file does not exist. Here we go. We're getting some patches in. Okay, 60 programs, 120 programs. One preset doesn't have any size. Back 120 presets. Here we go. See if these are some that we haven't heard before. I agree, Adapt. I think that the Ensoniq stuff, and again, it's what's so great about it too is, you know, they weren't overused in their time. Okay, so let's go to sounds and see what we have here. Okay, so this has Genesis, right? So I started the last live stream, I don't know, probably about a year ago with this one. Has that just incredible Wavestation-y thing where it just keeps evolving. It's interesting. So here's some of these like more boring. I bet with the TS-12's more piano-based keys, it's going to sound great. But now we have some patches I don't think we've heard before. Mist. That is not a bad sort of M1 choir type sound. Really cool. Multi-bass. Terrible. The groove. Silly. Sitar groove. Little pitch bend on that. Movie strings. 12 string. Glory bend. Very cool sort of kawaii K4. Euro groove. Very silly. This is more like M1-y stuff, I guess. Choirs though, if you like vintage digital stuff. We're back in the house. That's the type of thing I think this sounds best at. Hit ballad. Padillac. Yes, sir. A lot of low end. Takes the cake for like most breathy pad of all time. It's pretty crazy. Surround pad. Unfound, welcome to the stream. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoy it. I know I said some disparaging things about the Super 8. It was more a criticism of where it was placed in the market. For instance, if the Super Gemini never existed, Super 8 would just be, awesome, right? There's no doubt in my mind it's a great synth, great sounding synth. I just didn't understand, and I'd like to know why you didn't spring the extra $500 for the Super Gemini. Did you just really not, like, it just didn't seem to be worth the extra $500 for the second set of faders? I mean, I kind of get it. I use the CS70M behind me recently for a collaboration with another YouTuber, and I was so focused on programming it that I forgot that it's a bitimbral synth, and I should have absolutely used the fact that you could like offset the filters to get more interesting sounds, but I just, like, without having the second set of controls, I just honestly, like, I kind of forgot. Maybe that's a skill issue on my part, but yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Unfound, and I'm sorry if I have to be honest in these videos, but when I do that, I don't ever want to like belittle anybody, and it's more that I think of myself speaking directly to the company, right? And not maybe if Udo watches my videos, I don't think they do, but if they did, they might go, you know what, he's kind of got a point there. Maybe we'll just drop the price point from $3,000 to $2,500, even if we don't really make a lot of money, just to sort of olive branch. Maybe it would do some good. I don't know. That's how I think. I probably talked about that too much. So I'm going to have to like learn what all the different banks are. But to me, this bank, which is number 2, right? Yeah. To me, this is like the M1 on steroids. Soprano sax. Nice flute. It is good. It's a nice flute. Gives me Lene Roussancy vibes, if you know what that is. Very strange bell hook. Like a fucking like this is an M1 killer for me in the sense that it's like, why would you ever? They're coming right for it, aren't they? Crystal E-piano. I wonder if it's based off of the Crystal Rhodes preset. Oh, it absolutely is. So, someone like Mighty Pinto, anybody here play Super Mario 64? Dire Docks, the most beautiful music for a water level ever created, used the JD800 behind me's preset Crystal Rhodes through an analog chorus pedal to get that sound. And hearing this is just like, you can hear, I don't know how to play Dire Docks. But I can't imagine they didn't just sit there with the JD800 and go back and forth until they got the sound right. Weird whirly. Rob Cosentino, the M1 couldn't hold the TS-10's nuts out of the hot sand. That is an awesome comment. Ooh. I've always wanted an O1W for the ethnic card, which was used by Koji Kondo for the Forest Temple and Water Temple themes from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Oh, we have an analog horn pad. It is what it is. I like how when you apply Aftertouch, a lot of the times the patches become more stereo. That's cool. Mobius lead. Star Climber. Flugel solo. Power brass. Legit trumpet. Guess it is kind of a trumpet. And as the description says, it's legit. Synthcraft. Feel like I'm being punked by that one. The Pearl? Finally, a fucking whale patch. Ah, good old Mark tree. Interesting. Good old steel drum. I fucking, the 90s, man. Machine Storm's right. Where the fuck is the Shakuhachi? But will it echo the dolphin? That's a good question. 48-hour shuffle? This is pretty cool. I think the problem with this is like, you know, if I go into the filter here, I don't really notice a difference there. Let's change this to... Let's go to envelope 2. Yeah, see, it's I don't really know if I can make a meaningful difference to this particular sound, sadly. That's okay. Hype clav. Oh, hate that. Oh, acid bass. See, I think for me, without being able to tweak the filter at all, that is barely a clap. That's a decent Telecaster. Patch is called Silence, and that's what it gives you. This patch is called yeah, the Fresh Prince will be hanging out with Seinfeld. It's called Bravo, and it gives you a little ovation. Very cute. Okay, let's try one more bank tonight for the hell of it. Let's just go to the first bank and see what we can get in here. Because I think there's some cool ones. I think this has like Genesis in it still. But maybe this will override some of the other stuff that we had. Oh, the filter's not resonant, so don't worry about tweaking it. Yeah, see, that's like, I mean, I don't care for a synth like this. I just don't think that matters when you're doing these sort of romplery, Wavestation-y type sounds. However, I think it's, you don't need patches that are designed to be... Okay, see, these all look kind of about the same. Wait, let me go... Oh, bank set. Oh my god, I forgot. There's like multiple bank sets. Holy shit. Like, there's another... Like, for all of that we just did, there's more. I'm gonna have to spend hours with these, and of course I will be sampling this for the legendary synthesizer sample pack, so. Oh my god, there's one called Whales. Fuck yes. Give it to me. Love a goddamn Whales patch. Rob, Prophet TS is the fucking funniest shit. I love that typo. Evil Cupra, welcome to the chat. Mystique. Oh, this is a really cool Hyperwave one. Yeah, really, really good. Delicately. Digiswell. Very nice. Pretty crazy. Andromeda. Synthahol. Oh, right. And I forgot. We've got these things. And these like change which, like different variations, right? Rob, is that what that does? Ramaswell. Very cool. Palette. Not quite a Shakuhachi. What? I mean, I thought I had heard the brightest, breathiest pad ever, but I mean, this is over the top. I mean, it's almost a little piercing, but I love it. Alien Choir. Hey Jim, how's it going? Really awesome one. Again, I kind of hate the just volume jumps here. Very beautiful one there. Yeah, so that's some... There's a bird! So pretty. Oh, I love it so much. See if I would just hold on to it. Will we get a monkey in there? I don't think so. I think this is it. Still good though. Oh my god, so good. Oh, I'm so happy. That one is one of my favorite patches I've ever heard, just because it's so silly, but like kind of like emotional in a weird way. The Crypt. Oh, that's terrible. Techno groove. We just got a bunch of grooves here. Surfing groove. What the fuck? These are truly terrible. Ah, that makes sense, Dub. Very funny. Bossa groove. India grooves. Country groove. Just thinking of them good old boys out in Loxahatchee kicking on their TS-10 and... So fucking... These are very embarrassing. That's got 90s, you know, hip-hop all over it. That's awesome. Okay, we got some kits. Okay. We've done the thing. Okay. I think that's a perfectly good place to call it for tonight. What a journey there. What a funny thing we just experienced together. So, for sure, we experienced a lot more out of the TS-10 tonight than we did the last time, and I'm very excited. I hope some people watch this video because I just think it's a great synth. I think it has some of the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard. Clearly, it's also got some of the worst sounds I've ever heard, but that's not going to stop me from loving this thing. I think it's a very cool piece of vintage tech, and you can get them for under $1,000, which is always a nice thing. I didn't comment on the build quality, but it's like metal. Like, I think it's metal. whatever it is, it feels great. If it's not metal, it's like got this brushed aluminum thing to the I think this is plastic, but it feels metal. Like, it feels really great. The build quality feels a lot better than my SQ80 behind me, even though that might be what some people consider the superior synth. I wanted to get the most advanced, most digitally, most breathy, most whatever accoutrement to the SQ80, because one thing about the SQ80, it's awesome for its analog filter, but it's very low fidelity sounding with the samples, and you can't quite take it into that. It's not a Wavestation-y type synth with analog filters. It's definitely the previous generation of wavetable synths that are much more stripped down. And I think the SQ80 is just awesome. It's definitely one of the best sounding filters of all time. But I wanted to get something that could do the breathy thing really well. And I'm excited to eventually really learn this thing and get involved with it to the point where I can do my own stuff with it, because it's got the sound, and that's all I really need. I kind of know how to program an SQ80. I will eventually, I promise, along with a bunch of other tutorials, come out with a tutorial on how to program the SQ80, and then I will do probably a follow-up tutorial video on the TS-10, but I'll sort of have the required summer reading be the SQ80 video, because I believe the architecture is going to be about the same. So yeah. There's a secret menu, by the way. When turning on hold preset and record, and a debug menu pops up with someone's weird messages from the programmers. That's awesome. I appreciate it, Mike. I mean, maybe I'll take it off your hand. I don't know. I'll lend it, borrow it for you, borrow it for a bit is what I meant to say. The Hydrasynth, I need to check it out at some point. Part of it is that I've just got way too many things ahead of it. Does that make sense? Like, you can't see 1, 2, 3, 4 synths that are here in the room that have not had videos yet. So I have to get to all of that. And I think so. Was there a Pong game on a K2000? That's crazy. Yes, I think I either have the manual or I might have bought the hard copy, but it's a big boy. I mean, it's a complicated synth, and there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I plan to dig in, adapt, and that's the thing is, like, I think the promise of a synth that's like a Wavestation, but with the Ensoniq programmability, like Synth Addict was saying earlier, where you can actually program the thing in a way that you can't with the Wavestation. That's really the promise for me. I don't know if ultimately the synth will fulfill that. We'll have to see how well the UI works, and if it's just at some point becomes another Rompler where you just play the presets, but then after that you're kind of like tired of it. Yeah. So, but it's great. I also would like to check out the Physmo at some point for sure. Yeah, I have, at this point, Aquatic, it's turning into quite a synth museum. So some part of me is like, I almost should just pay rent somewhere and, put them all up and let people come in and use them for money. That might be not a bad idea. But in the meantime, I really am ultimately, I know it's crazy how many synths I have, but for me, it's about putting together almost in one way, like an ultimate instrument in this synth room, like the ability to go from one synth that just gives me joy to the other, turn them all on and just play. That's always been the goal. And so I am somewhat ruthless in getting them out of the studio as soon as I'm like, and as I have a bunch of new synths coming in, I am going to be selling more of mine. There's some on the chopping block, and I'm going to be sad to see some of them go. Some of them, I think are great, but I don't go to them. I don't go, okay, I gotta go check this one out. So yeah, 40 Thieves has a Physmo. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I like with Micah Hearn too. I just don't necessarily want to, how do I say this? Like, shipping, if something happened to somebody's synth in shipping while they're shipping it to me to do a review, that would just be terrible. Now, local people, You know, Troy from Togethers lent me some synths at some point. That was really cool of him. That's one thing where I can like physically drive, and if I get hit by a car on the way back with your synth in the back seat, at least I'll die too. Like I won't feel that bad, but like if anything happened in shipping to one of these synths, I could never forgive myself. And unfortunately that has happened. I just bought it. I think I mentioned to you guys that I got a JX8P fucking torn up in shipping, so it's going to be a lot of repairs to put that thing together. Basically the right side of the synth got broken and it's just not pretty. So yeah, Rob has a very strong point. Enjoy what you have. I am the most fortunate person to have these synths already. I don't need more, but it is fun to, you know, I feel like I'm pretty close at this point, guys, to be honest with you. Like, there are not many vintage synths left that I'd be excited to get. You know, it's the Expander, Yamaha CS30, maybe. I'm less hot on it now than I used to be because I'm just not as into mono synths. And the Prophet VS, and I mean, you know, after that, there's not that many vintage synths that are that compelling to me. I mean, I guess, like, what else is there? Like the Trident, Jupiter 6, Sequential T8, stuff that's like really expensive for what it is, but they're maybe a little bit better than the other offerings around there. So, yeah, Fismo was the one that killed it, but they were probably already doomed. I think it's both is true. So, ARP, yeah, so the 2600 is just like way too expensive to ever reasonably think I'm going to afford. You know, they're like 10 grand. And again, mono synth, very cool, you know, R2D2 and all that. I did have an Odyssey in the studio for one day. Those you can still get for a pretty good price. And I thought it was very cool. That is a very cool mono synth, especially for leads because of the ring modulation and stuff. Very Gary Newman, very punk rock, David Bowie, etc. That's a synth worth having. I just have kind of leaned away from it. And then, you know, the Fender Chroma Polaris essentially is an ARP, a polyphonic ARP synth to an extent. Kind of has that sound. You know, you get that ring modulator built into that too, and it has that clangorous, tinny sort of sound. So I also sort of feel like I'm not missing too much there. The GS2, very expensive and heavy. Oscar's a cool synth, additive, but again, mono or duophonic, I believe. Yeah. K3 is awesome. I wanted to do the Kawai K3 Dark Ambient Techno stream tonight, but I simply did not have time, so I was like, well, this is another alternative I could do tonight. And so I do think I'll be doing that soon. I will be doing a Scum Monday for members of this channel soon. Sorry I missed January. It's been a kind of a crazy month in terms of schedule for me. The bartender at my old job, she's been there for like 13 or 15 years, something like that. Last Friday, I think, owner and the next bartender came in at the shift change, which is at 6:30 p.m. and the customers are just screaming. She's passed out in the back room, blacked out drunk, covered in $500 of stolen money. Like, it's fucking amazing the way she went out. So she got fired, and so this happens at the same time that I'm working at my other job, and the managers and his brother who work there are out of town. So I'm doing manager shifts at one job, and meaning I need to be there the entire day. And then on my days off, working every day at my previous job to cover for her, because there's only like 4 bartenders now that work there. And of course they've got morning shifts and night shifts and everything. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks. And, once next week is over, so not this following Wednesday, but the next Wednesday, I'll be through, and I'll be kind of like back to a regular work schedule. And the good thing about that is synths are expensive and I'm making some money, so that means there might be some new synths on there. Dubstation, yes, I did, and I hate to take pleasure in that, Schadenfreude, but, you know, let's be real. Or, you know, we've been talking about it for a while, and there's always these people that when I make the claim that I get an abundant amount of comments on this channel, that say their gear from Behringer has broken more than any other company, people just don't believe me when I say that. And it's statistics. Someone could go through and catalog it themselves too, but because part of what I do is I try to respond to every comment, as long as it's not like caustically toxic. Yeah, you know, that's a big video, the fact that it broke down halfway through. Sequential 2000, really cool sampler. I'd be into checking it out, but I'm not the biggest into samplers or into monosynths, and I think if I was going to get a sampler, I'd probably get an Emax. I think Carl from Angel Spit has convinced me the Emax might be the way to go. Have a good night, Mike. But I do have the DSS-1 behind me and an Akai S900 over there, so, which I haven't done a video yet on. It's just, you know, yeah. So, but see, that's the thing, is there's other people, Adapt Manipulate being one of them, who are like, I've had no problems. And I also think that it kind of is dependent, because older Behringer seems a lot better built. Like if you have a Behringer, what is it? What's the K2, which is like the MS-20 clone, the Behringer Monopoly, the Behringer DM-12, what's their 303, the MS-101, all of that stuff. That generation of Behringer stuff seems to have less issues than the more modern stuff. That seems to be the case. I don't know. Again, it's not science. It's just, you know, I have to go off of what people tell me. But that's what I've heard for sure. I have not Dekarmic. I used to have the K5000S in here. I sold it because it's just way too deep for me to ever get my head around. DS8, really cool synth. Would love to check it out at some point. Gingy the Synth Cat, hello. Made it just at the end here. So anyways, guys, to finish out the stream, I just want to say a big thank you to all the members of this channel. So let's just shout them out real quick. So I've got Anna, Nikki, Dub motherfucking Station Zero, Andy Fields. What's it say? Twerking something Fields? That's amazing. Vulture Mom, Aquatic Borealis. Thank you guys for being the highest level. You guys have all been subscribed to the channel for more than 2 years. That's pretty, or I'm sorry, members of the channel for more than 2 years. That's pretty incredible. Moving on to the next group, we've got Douglas Edge, Ambient Knots, Jason, thank you so much. Nathan Dale, Ty Tracy, 40 motherfucking thieves, Mind Idiot, Max, Matson, Chris Farrell, Todd Vips, Sari Marchenko, Nunya Business, 2D Cat, incredible synthwave artist, Taryn Gray, another incredible synthwave artist, Hypothesis 13, Dave Serber, Pliskin, Jim Abbey, FSP, Nick Destruct, Ed from Earth, MIDI Alchemy, Synthsonic, and last but not least, my homie, Machine Storm. Thank you guys for all being members of this channel. It really makes it possible for me to continue to do this, because God knows that YouTube algorithm ain't shit. That money is just like, whatever people think about the algorithm, just like take that number and slice it by a 10th. Like, it's not what people think. You could never support yourself off of ad revenue, not at this level of a YouTube channel. I'm very skeptical that even at 100,000 subscribers, in fact, I know someone in the area who has 100,000 subscribers, and they're like, all of my money comes from sponsorships. The ad revenue is not paying almost anything. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a wonderful evening. I do my best Aquatic, and it's honestly, I'm so grateful that it's a weekly thing, because it forces me to do something cool every week. Because otherwise I would just do like one video every once in a while, and I try to make it a masterpiece, and then it would be good, but this is, I think, better. Plus the interaction is incomparable. But I am going to do a Scum Monday soon. We'll do some more legendary synthesizer tests, and then we'll get back into doing the live streams. The reason being, I want to modify a couple of things about the legendary synthesizer test. Nothing big, but something I want to work through with the community, the members of this channel first. So if you're not a member yet, this isn't a bad time, because we will have a members only stream coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping. So anyways, guys, Have a wonderful evening. Continue to be excellent, and I will see you next week.